Hi there and welcome to Reddit Confessions. If you've ever ignored your gut just to protect your heart, this story is for you. Let's begin. She dropped her keys into the bowl by the door, kicked off her heels like it was any other night, and said, "We didn't even make it to the second bar. Chelsea got too drunk again." I nodded, pretended to care, pretended I hadn't already read the group chat that didn't include a single person named Chelsea. By the time she walked past me to shower, I already knew what she'd done. And no, this isn't one of those stories where I start from the beginning and walk you through the sweet memories. I'm not in the mood to relive the fairy tale. This isn't a love story. It's an autopsy. This was the third girl's night out in 7 days. 7 days where I watched my wife transform from the woman who used to ask me to stay up and watch true crime documentaries into someone who couldn't even look me in the eyes without blinking like I was a stranger. The first night, she came back smelling like vodka and lies. The second night, she didn't come back at all. The third night, that was the finale. That's the night I stopped guessing and started knowing. I wasn't supposed to find the messages. She deleted everything from her phone. Sure, but she forgot about her smartwatch. Left it charging in the kitchen, glowing with every buzz she thought she'd buried. I tapped the screen. Unknown number. Can't stop thinking about you last night. That dress. That laugh. That couch. Her reply. Spencer suspects nothing. He thinks I'm at a wine bar with the girls again. Spencer. That's me. The clown. The dependable husband. The guy who picked her up from work for 3 years straight when she didn't want to deal with parking. The one who brought her soup when she had a cold. The one who believed her. Until 11:23 p.m. last night. That's when I stopped being her husband and became a footnote in her story. But what she didn't know was, I wasn't going to wait around for part 2. While she was out celebrating life, I was packing. Not my stuff, hers. While she was posting fake smiles on Instagram stories, I was quietly forwarding evidence to my lawyer. While she was living like a free woman, I was making sure she'd wake up to a reality where freedom came with consequences. Because when she came home from that third girls' night, she didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. The locks, the bank accounts, the marriage, everything. And when she stepped out of that shower, wrapped in a towel and humming like she still owned the air in this house, I handed her the manila envelope. She looked at it, then at me. "What's this?" "It's the dress rehearsal for your new life," I said. "Break a leg." She stared at the envelope in her hands like it was written in another language. Maybe she couldn't read reality because she'd spent too long rewriting it into something more convenient. Her towel was still damp, her hair dripping onto the floor, leaving behind the kind of mess she usually yelled at me for not wiping up. But I didn't hand her a paper towel this time. I handed her everything she thought I'd never have the spine to do. Inside that manila envelope, printed screenshots of every text from unknown number. A photo of her kissing him in the parking garage, pulled from the restaurant's public webcam archive. And a note that simply said, "You returned from your third girls' night. But this time, your old life didn't wait around." She blinked. Once, twice. Then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. A short, dry laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "You're seriously going through my stuff now?" she asked, her tone shifting like she still thought she had control of the scene. "Are you spying on me?" "That's messed up, Spencer." That's when I realized what this really was. It wasn't heartbreak anymore. It wasn't confusion or even grief. It was insult. After everything I gave, she was still trying to gaslight me like I was the villain for finding out. "You lied to me," I said quietly, still standing in the same spot, still calm. "You called me boring. Told your little gym boy I was clueless. You told him you felt alive with him. I wonder if you'll still feel that way when you're living alone." She scoffed and threw the envelope down on the coffee table like it burned her. "So what? You're just going to kick me out?" "No," I replied. "I already did." That's when she noticed the rest. The empty coat hooks. Her keys, removed from the ring and placed neatly beside her purse. Her gym bag zipped and waiting by the door. The Uber I had scheduled was already 2 minutes away. And yes, I even packed her charger. I didn't want to give her a reason to text me later asking for one last thing. She walked to the door in silence, then turned back, her towel barely clinging to her. You think you're strong now, huh? Think this makes you better than me? I didn't answer that, because it didn't. It made me free. That was enough. She grabbed the bag, opened the door, and looked back one more time. You'll regret this, she whispered. I regretted trusting you, I said. This is survival. She left, just like that. The door closed softly. No slamming, no screaming, just an eerie, simple finality. I stood there in my living room, in a house that suddenly felt 10 times quieter. The silence didn't feel peaceful. Not yet. Felt empty but honest. And after weeks of pretending everything was okay, honesty, even when it hurt, felt like oxygen. I didn't cry. I thought I would. I really thought I would. But all I did was walk to the window, watch her get in the car, and let my shoulders finally drop. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. It had only been 36 hours since she walked out that door, but I was already learning how time behaves differently after betrayal. Minutes stretch, hours snap, nights come without sleep, and mornings arrive with no sense of relief. I thought removing her would bring me peace, and in a way it did, but what I hadn't anticipated was the aftershock. You don't spend nearly a decade with someone and just wake up brand new. There are fingerprints everywhere, on the coffee mug I still reached for, the toothbrush I almost forgot to throw out, the Spotify playlist that shuffled into one of her songs while I was doing dishes like nothing had changed. But everything had. What she didn't know, what she never anticipated, was that I wasn't done. Not out of revenge. Not even out of anger. But because her affair didn't just betray me. It violated everything I sacrificed for her. See, Clarissa wasn't just my wife. She was my business partner, on paper at least. When I started my freelance design company, I added her to the LLC for tax reasons. She never touched the work. She never lifted a finger. But I kept her name on everything because I was naive enough to think love meant permanence. And that was my next wake-up call. After she left, I opened our business bank accounts. I hadn't checked them in weeks. She usually handled the boring stuff, as she called it. That's when I saw it. A series of transfers. Small at first, then bolder, then insulting. $3,000 labeled Wellness Retreat. $400 for consulting. $900 for training equipment. Every one of those expenses went directly to a personal account under her maiden name. And one transfer, $1,200, was marked lodging. I matched the date to the first night she didn't come home. She used my company to fund her affair. And I had proof. That's when I decided the story wasn't over. If she was going to play dirty, I was going to play smart. I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer. Presented everything. Texts, screenshots, bank statements. She leaned back in her chair, looked over the folder, and said something I'll never forget. You've already won. Now it's just about how clean you want the win to be. So I made a plan, not petty, not public, but precise. Cold. Clinical. First, I froze the company accounts and removed her name from all permissions. Second, I contacted every client we shared and let them know there had been a breach in administrative oversight. I didn't tell them why. I didn't drag her name, but I reclaimed my space. And third, I sent her one final message. There's a certified letter coming. I suggest you read it carefully. Your chapter in this story is officially over. Don't contact me again. No threats. No drama. Just closure. She responded 6 minutes later with a string of voice messages I didn't open. I didn't need to hear her cry or scream or spin it into another performance. She'd already given me a front row seat to that act for too long. Instead, I went for a walk. For once, I didn't take my phone. The wind hit different. The air didn't feel like it was pushing against me anymore. I stood on a bridge near our old coffee spot and watched the water move. Not rush, just move. Like it didn't need to prove anything to the rocks in its way. It just flowed forward. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I'd been so focused on what she destroyed, I hadn't realized what I'd gained. Silence, space, self-respect. But little did I know, She wasn't done yet. And her next move, it nearly wrecked everything I'd rebuilt. It had been just over a week since I locked the door behind Clarissa. In that time, I'd done everything I could to remove her from my life. Legally, emotionally, financially. I deleted our shared playlists, scrubbed her face from my phone gallery, even tossed her half-used shampoo into the trash like it was radioactive. Still, I won't lie, there were moments when I almost folded. Nights were the hardest. The silence was different now. It wasn't peaceful. It was loud. It echoed with her laugh, her footsteps, her passive-aggressive little sighs when I overcooked the rice. I'd catch myself turning to say something to her, only to realize she was never going to be on that couch again. And then I'd feel it, that wave of grief, not just for her, but for the version of me who believed she'd never leave. But just when I thought I could start healing, she came back. Not physically, no. Clarissa never did anything directly when she could do it manipulatively. It started with a call from a client I hadn't heard from in months. "Hey, Spencer, weird question. Did you recently start a new branch under a different name? Someone emailed me claiming to be from your new company. Said you're handing off your design contracts. Sounded like you." I blinked, my stomach going cold. "No, I haven't started anything new. Can you send me that email?" He did. It was from a Gmail address. No logo, no signature. Just a short, confidently written message claiming I'd stepped back from freelance work and was entrusting future opportunities to Clarissa's new design studio. Except Clarissa never touched a design file in her life. I read it 3 times, each time with more disbelief. She hadn't just lied. She was trying to steal my clients. Clients I built relationships with. Clients who trusted me. And she was using the quiet after the storm to rebuild herself on the ashes of everything she helped burn. I forwarded the message to my attorney. Within 24 hours, we sent a formal cease and desist. The language was clean but direct. Any continued misrepresentation of my business, personal brand, or client base would result in immediate legal action. Clarissa never replied directly. But then came the text. Just one line. "Didn't think you'd go nuclear over a little networking." Networking? I sat there staring at the screen, trying to wrap my head around the arrogance. She didn't just cheat. She didn't just drain our joint account. Now she was positioning herself as some kind of innocent entrepreneur and painting me as the overreactive ex. So I did something I wasn't proud of. I checked her social media. She had reactivated everything. New profile picture. New bio. Building something beautiful from the broken pieces. I nearly gagged. She posted selfies with captions like, "Grateful for new beginnings," and "Stronger than ever." Stronger than ever? You cheated. You stole. You lied. And now you're the inspiration? It took everything in me not to post a truth bomb in the comments. But I didn't. Because if I've learned one thing, it's that the loudest person in the room is usually the one hiding the most. So I watched. Quietly. Strategically. Just like her. Until I saw it. Buried in the comments on one of her latest posts was a reply to a friend. Honestly, if he'd been more ambitious, I never would have had to leave. That was it. Not the cheating. Not the betrayal. Not even the gaslighting. That one sentence broke something in me. Because after everything, she still couldn't admit what she did. She had to frame it like I pushed her away by not being good enough. Like her affair was just a symptom of my mediocrity. Like she was the one who deserved sympathy. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of sadness. But clarity. Clarissa wasn't trying to come back. She was trying to rewrite the ending. And I wasn't going to let her. Not this time. The comment kept replaying in my head like some broken record I never asked to hear. If he'd been more ambitious, I never would have had to leave. That sentence followed me through the next few days like a mosquito I couldn't kill. Small, irritating, but relentless. It didn't just sting. It rewrote our entire marriage in one smug, self-righteous phrase. It reduced everything I had done. All the nights I stayed up working while she slept peacefully beside me, all the birthdays I planned, the bills I paid, the fights I backed down from to keep the peace, into some pathetic excuse she whispered to make herself look like the victim. And the worst part? People believed her. Our mutual friends, those neutral, ones who didn't want to take sides, started pulling away from me. I'd noticed them liking her posts, commenting with things like, "So proud of you," or "Glad you're finally doing what makes you happy." What did that make me, then? Her jailer? Her anchor? No, I was her doormat, and I was done lying on the floor. I never wanted to make anything public. I didn't post online. I didn't air my dirty laundry. But it became clear she was happily hanging hers out for display and letting everyone guess whose blood was on it. So I decided if she wanted an audience, I'd give her the truth. Not through shouting, not through drama, but with facts. Cold, documented, unfiltered facts. It started when a close friend of ours, Lena, invited me to her husband's birthday dinner. Clarissa would be there, obviously. I almost declined, but then I realized something. Everyone in that room had heard her version. This would be the first and only time they'd hear mine. I arrived early, dressed decently, no theatrics. I brought a smile that didn't feel real, but it was good enough to pass for polite. When she walked in, I felt her eyes hit me like a punch to the chest. She wasn't expecting me. She had her hair done up, and she was wearing a necklace I bought her last Christmas. Ironic. She didn't speak, just smirked and took her seat across the table like we were just two guests, strangers at best. I didn't speak either until someone brought it up. "So, how's the split going?" one of her friends asked, eyes flicking between us like she'd dropped a match just to watch something burn. Clarissa leaned back in her chair, that practiced tone already creeping into her voice. "It's been a process, but I'm finally feeling like me again. I didn't realize how much I gave up until I left." I said nothing. Another person chimed in. "It's wild how relationships can drain us without us even knowing. Like, you don't notice how little you're getting until you step away." Clarissa smiled like she was receiving an award. That's when I placed my phone gently on the table. No drama, no announcement, just the screen, unlocked, displaying the PDF of the financial statements. The money she stole, the hotel charges, the gym equipment she expensed. Below it, another file text. From him. I didn't say a word. The person next to me leaned over to look, and his eyes widened. Another guest leaned in. Whispering started. Clarissa noticed. She blinked, then frowned. "Spencer, what are you?" "I'm not saying anything," I interrupted, my voice calm but loud enough. "I just thought the truth deserved a seat at the table too." Silence. You could hear someone's fork clink against their plate. I never looked at her. I didn't need to. I already knew what I'd see. Shock trying to disguise itself as outrage. "I can't believe you'd ambush me like this," she hissed. "No," I said, rising from my seat. "You ambushed me the day you decided my back was the best place to build your new life on." I just turned around. I left the dinner without touching my food. I didn't need the meal. I had already eaten something far more satisfying, clarity. By the next morning, 2 of our old friends texted me. "I had no idea, man. I'm sorry I believed her. She made it sound like you were lazy, but now it all makes sense. I wasn't trying to ruin her. I just wanted to reclaim my own name. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't standing in her shadow anymore. I had stepped out. I had stood tall. And most importantly, I had stayed quiet until the truth could speak for itself. But here's the thing about people like Clarissa. They don't let go that easily. I thought that dinner was the end of it. But her next move, let's just say, she finally showed everyone who she really was. I thought the worst was over. That naive version of me actually believed exposing the truth at that dinner would mark the end of it all. The final page in a story I didn't ask to write. But betrayal, I've learned, doesn't end with the truth. Sometimes that's when it really begins. 3 days after the dinner party, I got a knock on my apartment door. It was 9:14 a.m. and I hadn't even made my coffee yet. 2 uniformed officers stood there, serious expressions, one holding a clipboard. "Mr. Spencer Dwyer?" "Yes?" "You're being contacted regarding an incident report filed on your behalf. Mind if we come in?" My stomach dropped, not because I had anything to hide, but because I already knew who had filed it. Clarissa. They sat down in my living room and got straight to the point. Apparently, Clarissa had filed a formal report claiming I had threatened her safety and personal privacy by publicly sharing intimate and confidential information at the dinner party. She claimed emotional distress, reputational harm, and public intimidation. Words so inflated, they practically floated. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It burst out of me like a cough you can't suppress. "Sir, this isn't a criminal charge at the moment," one of the officers clarified, clearly uncomfortable. "We're just required to follow up on the report. We looked into it. Doesn't seem like anything actionable. But she did mention she may be pursuing a restraining order." A restraining order. From the woman who cheated on me, stole from me, smeared my name, and used my business accounts to fund her affair. Now I was being treated like a threat? I asked calmly if they'd like to see the bank records, the texts, the evidence I handed to my attorney weeks ago. They said that wouldn't be necessary for their visit, but noted the documents could be useful if things escalated. After they left, I sat there on the edge of my couch, motionless. Not even angry, just stunned. Because it wasn't about legality. It wasn't even about safety. It was about the story. Clarissa didn't want justice. She wanted control of the narrative again. And what better way to do that than by painting me? The quiet, broken man she discarded, as unstable, as bitter, as dangerous. I called my lawyer immediately and told her everything. Her sigh on the other end said it all. "She's playing dirty now," she said. "That means she's scared. People like her only throw grenades when they've already lost the war." Still, I wasn't going to play defense. I'd already done that too long. I was tired of reacting. So I went on offense, but not with rage. With paperwork. The very next day, we filed a formal petition for business fraud and misrepresentation, using the funds she stole under false pretenses as evidence. We also submitted a motion to have her removed entirely from any stake in my business entity, and had my lawyer draft a statement for any clients she had contacted under my name. It was professional, cold, factual, and it worked. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched the dominoes fall one by one. Clarissa's new business page on Instagram quietly vanished. Her wellness coach friend who had been promoting her studio stopped tagging her in posts. A few former clients emailed me apologetically, saying they'd cut contact with her entirely. She was losing her grip. Not because I destroyed her, but because I refused to let her destroy me. And then, one night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. I listened. It was her. No anger. No fury. Just a whisper. "I know you hate me. I don't blame you. But I don't have anyone left. I don't know who I am anymore. If you could just talk to me, please." I played it again. And again. And then I deleted it. Because I did hate her. But not in the way she meant. I hated the part of me that still wanted to believe that voice. That still thought maybe she was human underneath all the manipulation. But I knew better now. And there was no version of this story where I let her back in. I hadn't heard her voice in weeks. Not since that quiet, desperate voicemail she left after filing the police report. I ignored it, not because I'm heartless, but because I finally understood something about Clarissa. When she wasn't in control of the story, she panicked. When people didn't believe her version, she'd rewrite it. And if rewriting didn't work, she'd burn the entire script. And true to form, she lit the next match. I got the call on a Thursday morning, right in the middle of reviewing a new client's brand package. It was from Lena, the same friend who had invited us both to the birthday dinner, the same one who had seen Clarissa's lie unravel in real time. "Spencer," she said, her voice low, nervous. "I think you need to know something. Clarissa's been talking to Ava." I froze. Ava was my youngest sister, 19 years old. She'd always looked up to Clarissa. Before everything collapsed, they were close. Uncomfortably close, honestly. Clarissa styled her hair for high school dances, helped her pick outfits, even gave her dating advice. I used to think it was sweet. Now I realized it was strategic. "What do you mean, talking to her?" I asked, already feeling the sting behind my eyes. "She messaged Ava a few days ago. Told her she was concerned about you. Said you've been acting erratic and that she's worried you're isolating yourself. She's planting seeds, Spencer. Of course she was. Clarissa wasn't done trying to win back the people who still hadn't chosen a side. And Ava? She was perfect, young, impressionable, and still emotionally tangled in the memory of the old Clarissa. I thanked Lena, hung up, and called my sister immediately. To her credit, Ava answered on the first ring. I know, she said, before I could even say hello. I know what she's doing. I didn't want to believe it at first, but after everything that's happened, I can't pretend anymore. I exhaled, slowly. So, you're not buying into it? No, she replied. But it hurt. She said you were withholding information, and that you were trying to turn everyone against her out of spite. She even said you had emotional issues you've never worked on. It wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was character assassination. She was laying the groundwork to make me the villain to everyone I hadn't already convinced otherwise. And honestly, it almost worked. Because after I hung up with Ava, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. Tired of defending myself. Tired of being forced to explain a story I didn't even create. Tired of being the cleanup crew for someone else's mess. But something shifted in me that night. I realized I didn't have to play defense anymore. I had the facts. I had the truth. And more importantly, I had the receipts. So I called a friend of mine, Marcus, who runs a local podcast. He and I had grown up together, and he knew the basics of what I was going through. He'd invited me before to share my side of the story, but I declined, too afraid of seeming petty. Now I was ready to speak. Not to shame Clarissa, not to start a firestorm, but to reclaim my own voice. We recorded the episode in one take. No script, no edits. I told everything. From the moment she first went out on that girls' night to the final voicemail. I kept it factual, honest, raw. No exaggerations. Just my truth. We released it the next day. Within hours, it spread faster than either of us expected. People listened, shared, commented. Former clients reached out with their own stories about Clarissa's shady dealings. Even someone from her wellness coaching circle messaged the podcast saying they'd cut ties after seeing the receipts I referenced. Clarissa didn't respond publicly, but I know she listened, because 2 nights later I got a single text. You didn't have to do that. I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, you did this. I just stopped hiding from it. She never texted again. And for the first time since this entire nightmare started, the silence actually felt like closure. It's strange how something can feel like the end and a beginning at the same time. After the podcast episode dropped, everything finally went still. No more texts. No more third-party drama. No new lies to track down. The whirlwind of manipulation that Clarissa created slowly collapsed under its own weight. People saw through it. And what remained? Just me. A guy who had spent way too long apologizing for someone else's choices. But this is where it flips. Because I didn't just lose a wife. I lost the fear of being alone. I lost the belief that silence means failure. I lost the version of myself who begged to be chosen. And in its place, I found something I didn't expect. Peace. It didn't come in some movie-like epiphany or big dramatic scene. It came in the small things. The first morning, I didn't check her socials. The afternoon, I laughed, genuinely laughed, with friends again. The night, I sat on the balcony. No music, no distractions, just breathing in and realizing I was okay. And better yet, I wasn't bitter. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her to crash and burn. I just needed my life back. And I got it. I picked up new clients. I started taking weekends off, something I hadn't done in years. I reconnected with old friends who never liked Clarissa but stuck around for me. I even took Ava out for coffee and listened, really listened, to her talk about college, boys, and how she almost let someone convince her of something she knew deep down wasn't true. Maybe that's the real lesson here. Trust your gut. Don't ignore the red flags just because you've already invested in the story. And never confuse love with tolerance for emotional punishment. Clarissa lost everything she tried to control. And I I found the version of me that I forgot existed. One who sets boundaries. One who forgives without forgetting. One who knows that walking away isn't weakness, it's growth. So if you're out there right now, feeling like you're at your lowest, just know, this isn't your ending. It's just a transition. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is get quiet enough to hear what your life has been trying to tell you all along. I want to thank every single person who listened, commented, or just read silently. This has been one of the most vulnerable and unexpected chapters of my life. But I survived it, and so will you. Now it's your turn. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Have you ever had a moment where someone's mask finally slipped? And what did you do afterward? Drop your stories in the comments. I'll be reading every one of them. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Reddit Confessions. Because no matter how messy it gets, truth always finds a way to surface. And healing begins the moment you stop hiding from it.